ちが命。久しぶりだな、サスケ。
Hi, my name's Holly. I've been lucky enough to live a comfortable life. Until one day, my parents disappeared. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button. Click on the notification bell icon, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, because it really helps us a lot. It was just a normal day when it started. I was getting ready for school. But when I came down to the kitchen, the usual smell of breakfast wasn't there. My dad wasn't flipping pancakes or making his signature bacon and eggs. My mom wasn't busy on her phone, setting up her schedule for the day with her assistant. The house was dead silent. I panicked. I called my grandma. I called 911. But even after an entire day of searching for them, my parents left no trace. It was only a couple days later that they were officially listed as missing. But by then, the cops still came up with no leads. They left no tracks. It was almost too clean how they disappeared. My mom was a CEO of a successful corporation, and she obviously had a lot of rivals in her field. But no one would have thought that they'd go this far. My grandma took me in. She adopted me. After months of searching, we eventually had to accept the possibility that my parents were no longer alive. "Don't worry, sweetie. I'll take care of you, Holly. I promised your parents if anything ever happened, I'll take care of you." I cried into my grandma's shoulder as I hugged her. I was exhausted. I still wasn't ready to say goodbye. In my heart, I still thought they were out there, somewhere. Living with Grandma was great. She gave me everything I needed, and she was always there for me. But just like my mom, she was also the head of a multinational corporation. And a lot of the time, she would be away on trips. Some of her business trips would last a couple of months even. Those were the times I wished that my parents were with me. I was always lonely, and what's worse was that the family I had left, the ones Grandma entrusted to look after me and her home, they were evil. My uncles, aunts, and cousins always rejoiced when Grandma was away, because then they would pretend like her house was their castle. They would envision themselves owning everything when Grandma was gone, and I was the butt of their jokes. They treated me like I was their maid. "Hey, Holly, where's our breakfast? Why is breakfast not on the table yet? What have you been doing all morning?" I'm sorry. I was getting ready for school." "School? What do you expect us to do while you're off to school? Butter our own toast? Do our own laundry? Silly girl. You're not going anywhere today. Your aunt needs her feet rubbed, and your cousins need you to clean their rooms." "Yeah, come on, Holly. I'm having friends over today. You need to make my room look super nice." "Me too, Holly. My boyfriend's coming here today, and I want to surprise him with how clean I am with my stuff. So you're going to have to get rid of all the laundry there, and why don't you bring up some of Grandma's paintings that are in her room?" It was always like that. Every time Grandma was away, my relatives acted like they owned everything, including me. My cousins would even throw insane parties where their friends would trash the whole place, even breaking some of Grandma's stuff. And guess what? Whenever Grandma came back to find that some or other thing was missing or broken, they all blamed it on me. My cousins were the worst. Sometimes they'd use me as a human furniture. "Holly, come here. We're in a living room and we're watching this show, and Kayla's having trouble with the ottoman. Her feet just don't feel comfortable on it." "Yeah, Holly, bestie, it hurts. The ottoman's too high for my legs and it's hurting me. Be a dear and crouch down for me so I can rest my feet on your back, will you?" "Uh-huh, or else, well, you know what's gonna happen." what was going to happen was that if I didn't do everything they asked me, they would tell Grandma some made-up story about me. And they would break some of her stuff so Grandma would once again think I was the one who did it. Kayla was my BFF, or at least she used to be. We grew up poor together. Even though our grandparents were rich, our parents were too proud to ask for help. And so our parents had to fight their ways to the top. My parents became successful while Kayla's stayed poor. And that's why when my parents disappeared, Kayla's treatment of me changed. She was always jealous that my family got rich, and she was always resentful that she never got anything she wanted. But now that Grandma had given them the authority to look after everything while she was gone, Kayla finally got to have power of her own. She got to spend what she wanted, and she got to finally take out her frustrations on me. Kayla made sure she treated me like her own personal maid. One time while her boyfriend visited, she made me dress her, do her makeup, and style her hair. She made me stand by their table the whole night, holding several candles to light their dinner. I had wax burns everywhere. That night, she talked my ear off, boasting how in love her boyfriend was with her, as I sat on her bed and turned the pages of the book she was pretending to read for her. If only she knew that Jackson was definitely not in love with her. Jackson had long been in love with me. The only reason he was still seeing her was because he knew if he broke up with Kayla, they'd take revenge on me. He was simply buying time for us until he could make sure I was safe and out of harm's way. Jackson talked to me the first time he saw how Kayla treated me. He was a kind man, the absolute opposite of my cousin. And whenever he would see Kayla treating me badly, he would take me on a date to make up for the bad times. When Kayla used me as a stool to get up on her horse when they went horseback riding, Jackson took me on a private jet and took me to a ranch that he bought for me. When Kayla made me cook them a romantic dinner, immediately after saying goodnight to Kayla, Jackson took me back to his mansion where his personal chef cooked me the best meal of my life. I didn't really care about all that stuff. But what I loved about Jackson was the lengths he would go to make sure I was okay. That even though I was being treated like a maid back home, when I was with him, I felt like a princess. And I couldn't wait for the day when I would be free. But before Jackson could finally set himself free of my cousin, something happened that would turn our worlds upside down. Grandma never returned from her trip. And for days, none of us could believe it. First, my parents, and now, Grandma. But my cousins and relatives could not be happier. They were all eager to hear Grandma's will. Kayla was certain she was going to be an heiress, and I was dreading the amount of power she would hold over me. And so, Jackson and I didn't make our move, in case breaking up with her would only make her want vengeance on me. But on the day of the reading of the will, this was what came out of the lawyer's lips. I leave all properties, estates, companies, investments, and trusts to my beloved granddaughter, Holly. I know it hasn't been easy. I know what my ingrate children and grandchildren have done to you. But you are my legally adopted daughter now. This way, I can at least take better care of you even after I'm gone. The room erupted with protests. How can she be the sole heir? She's nothing! She's just an orphan! Yeah, her parents got themselves blown up or something. It's just pity. She's not fit to inherit any of this. Actually, we didn't get blown up. The door to the attorney's office opened wide and everyone's heads turned towards the voice. I knew exactly who it was. I dreamt about them so many times. My mom and dad rushed towards me and hugged me so tight I thought I'd stop breathing. It turned out they had become involved in a massive financial scandal that got unraveled because of their anonymous tip to the FBI. And for years, they had to lay low in witness protection. But now that the person they reported was safely behind bars, they were cleared to come back to their lives. especially after they heard that Grandma had passed. I inherited everything Grandma owned, and suddenly my relatives treated me differently. They begged me to let them stay. Kayla was the first one on her knees. "We're besties, remember? I'll do anything. I'll scrub the floors. I'll be your maid. Anything. If Jackson finds out I'm poor now, he'll dump me." What she didn't know was that Jackson had just arrived upon my invitation, and he heard everything she said. "Actually, no, Kayla. I'm not dumping you because you're poor now. I'm dumping you because you're a horrible person. From the moment you showed me how badly you treated those below you, I knew I had to leave you. You even bragged about how Holly would do whatever you told her to. The only reason I didn't leave you was because Holly begged me, because she was scared for her safety if you found out I'd be dating her." "What?" "Yeah, your cousin and I are dating, and I love her. You, by the way, can go now." I smiled at my cousin as I kissed her ex. I said, "Bye, Kayla." My mom and dad ended up retiring as well. They too entrusted their company to me. Nowadays, I'm a busy girl boss, and Jackson supports me all the way. And whenever my relatives would ask me for help, I would remind them of the way they treated me before. So remember, be kind to everyone. You never know when the tables will turn.